Hey guys, Sharpend here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create Christmas bells that sound something like that. So usually this type of sound is made by combining two instruments together. The first one being a tambourine that should sound something like that, and the second one being a tonal instrument that has a very pure tone to it without too many upper harmonics. So that would be a glockenspiel, a xylophone, or tubular bells and such. So I'm going to split this sound into two parts. First creating the tonal instrument and then creating the noise, which is the tambourine sound. So I'm going to start by creating a pluck from two sine waves, like that. I'm going to set one of them an octave above and the other one 2 octaves up. And I'm going to detune the one that is 2 octaves up quite a bit, like that. And I'm going to set a volume envelope to make it sound like a pluck by setting the sustain all the way down, setting the decay to around 1.5 seconds, and setting the release to 1 second. I'm also going to make the attack transient a bit less sharp by increasing the attack by just a bit. And right now it sounds like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some bitcrushing in order to introduce that tambourine frequencies. So that would be very high-end frequencies. I'm going to be using Serum's downsampling function in the distortion effect. And right now it sounds like this, but it has a lot of harmonics there and I want it to have a bit less. So I'm going to reduce the drive by a bit. Like that. Now I'm going to add a chorus and I'm going to set it to around 80%. I'm going to set the low pass filter all the way up. And I'm going to set one of the delays to around 8 milliseconds and the other one to around 3 milliseconds. And I'm going to set the rate to 0 so that it sounds like this. Now I'm going to add some EQ and I'm going to automate the high shelf of the EQ like that by setting an attack, a plucky envelope. So I'm going to set the attack all the way down. I'm going to set the decay to be quite short and sharper, like that. I'm also going to set the release so that the envelope continues even if I leave the key. And I'm also going to add a high pass filter to get rid of any low-end noise that we might be adding to the sound because of our downsampling, like that. So now you can add some reverb and just high pass it by a bit. And one more thing that you can do if you want it to sound like multiple instruments playing at the same time is to set the rate of the chorus to around 0.04 Hertz. So here's how it sounds with 0 Hertz. And here's how it sounds with 0.04 Hertz. As you can hear, it sounds like multiple instruments playing at the same time. So now with the reverb, it sounds like this. Now another thing that you can do to make it sound a bit more realistic is to also add a tambourine sample as well. So I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to open up a new Serum in which I'm going to be using only the noise oscillator. I'm going to set it to that tambourine sample, which sounds like this. And I'm going to set it to one-shot mode so that it doesn't repeat itself. Here's how it sounds when I press a long note. And here's how it sounds while using one-shot mode. As you can hear, it doesn't repeat at all. And I'm going to set an envelope so that the release is quite a bit up, so that when I leave the note it will still play the sample until it ends, like that. So we can also add some chorus as well if you want it to sound like multiple tambourines. And I'm going to use the same settings as I did for the block sound. I'm going to set the rate to around here. It doesn't have a big effect, but it sounds a bit more washed out, like there's a couple more tambourines playing that sample. And you can also use some reverb as well, like that. And once you layer those two together, you get a very interesting and unique sound. So right now it sounds like this. And here's how it sounds without our tambourine sample. So it sounds a lot more isolated, and maybe that's better for other purposes if you're looking for these. But together and with another octave, it should sound like this, compared to that without our tambourine sample, which is a lot more interesting once you add that tambourine layer on top. So one more thing that you can do is to set this knob on, which means that the noise will pitch shift the higher you go or the lower you go. So that means that the higher I go, it will sound like it's in a higher pitch, and the lower I go, it will sound like it's in a lower pitch. And that might sometimes be useful for creating a bit more realistic sound, like here for example. But sometimes you just want it to have the same attack to every note that you play, so you can choose how you want to use that. One more thing that you can do in case you decide to not use the noise function is to use keyboard tracking, so that the lower notes you play will have a bit more high end, because the lower you go, it sounds like you need that high end to convince people that the sound you made is realistic. So that's what I'm going to do right now. As you can see, the lower I go, I set it so that the gain on the high shelf goes higher, so that we do retain some high frequencies the lower we go in notes. And as you can see, once we go to around C6, it barely adds any gain, because those notes already have a lot of high frequencies to them, so they don't need it. And that is pretty much how you make it. I'm going to put a download link to some tambourine samples so you can layer these with your own Christmas bell sounds. If you found this tutorial helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what subject you want me to cover up next time.